Nightwork, a Dave Brandstetter mystery. Author Joseph Hansen. Publisher Open Road Integrated Media. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 13. The Valiant started reluctantly in the rain, but once all the cylinders began igniting in order, it followed the van without trouble back to Horseshoe Canyon. David stretched lunch out, glad for the chance to rest, and it was 4:10 when the van tilted ahead of him down the sharp drop from the trail into the bricked yard, and he jumps down after it. Rain still fell, dripping from shrubs, trees, eaves, and darkness was coming early. A four-wheel drive sports wagon stood, reflected in the front building's row of French doors. The vehicle was high on its wheels, well kept, 3 or 4 years old, with simulated wood paneling, and it looked empty in the rain. But when Cecil rolled the van up beside it, Dave, the jalopy, and the engine stopped, and they got out. Someone stirred in the wagon. A broad, black young face under a Padre's cap looked out the driver's window. The door opened. Melville Bishop got out. 3 more faces appeared at the rear windows. Young boys' faces, somber. "Man, I was scared you'd never get here," Melville said. "We've been waiting for hours." He glanced at the small boys in the car. "They peed in your bushes. I'm sorry, but little kids always have to pee when it's no place for it." "What are you doing here?" Cecil said. "Where's your mother?" Dave said. "Escondido," Melville said. Rain was darkening the satiny fabric of the baseball cap. He moved away from the car, jerking his head to indicate that they should follow him. Out of earshot of the children, he said in a low voice, "Mercy Hospital. Critical condition." He glanced back at the car. All 3 faces were lined up at the rear window. Melville said, "They don't know. They think she took sick. It wasn't that. She was shot." Cecil sucked air through his teeth. Melville's eyes smoldered at Dave. "I knew something bad would happen when she told me she talked to you. We weren't supposed to talk." "You mean the Duchess's goons shot her?" "The sheriff say it was an accident." Melville's tone was contemptuous. "First she talked to you in the morning, later on to Smithers." Melville looked sharply at Dave. "Claim he worked with you. It's a lie, isn't it?" "It's a lie," Dave said. "I don't know him." Cecil said, "Shot her at Hutchinson's?" Melville shook his head. "You know the store in Halcon? General store, post office? Indian dude, run it." Dave stared. "The rifle range. A bullet from the rifle range." He glanced at Cecil. Cecil looked sick. "That almost happened to us." "No almost about this." Melville's fist bunched in the pockets of his Padre's windbreaker. His feet, in worn jogging shoes, nudged wet leaves on the bricks. He watched them. His voice wobbled. "She could die." "I'll phone the hospital." Dave turned up his jacket collar and started off. "Collect your brothers and come inside." He took a few steps, then turned back. "Better get your car out of sight. Cecil, drive it up to Hilda Vosper's, will you? She was a neat little gray-haired widow who lived up the road with a feisty little rag-bag dog and had helped Cecil out of trouble once. She only uses half her garage. She loves you. She'll let you hide it there." Cecil saluted, and Dave hunched his shoulders and hurried around the end of the front building, across the uneven bricks of the courtyard, under the old oak, and into the rear building. His desk waited at the far end of the long, high, plank-walled room. He sat at the desk and used the phone for a jockey, neighborly call to Hilda Vosper. Then he got to the process of connecting with the hospital down the coast. Before he managed it, Melville came in, shepherding these small boys. 2 of them skinny, 1 stocky, a miniature Melville. The room was gloomy, so their teeth and eyes, whites, shone. They rolled their eyes plainly. They had never seen a place quite like this one. Come to that, neither had Dave. "Cecil, manage your car all right," Dave called. "Say he'd be back in a minute." Melville shut the door. "Then he's going to cook. These babies don't only always have to pee, they always hungry. He's going to fix food for these here babies." Melville gave the little boys quick, rough, affectionate shoves. "Don't push me, man," they said in small, high voices. "Look at who you messing with," the stocky one said. "I got me a big brother could beat the shine out of you." "Where? Bring on, I'm ready." Melville scowled around him in mock truculence and jabbed the air with blocky fist. The two skinny boys jumped on him from behind, clutching his shoulders, circling his neck, and dragging him to the floor where they piled on him and pummeled him. At the Escondido end of the telephone line, a nurse, deceived by Dave's fast talk about insurance, into believing he had a right to know, told him that Luella Bishop was in stable condition after surgery, though she was still unconscious. Dave thanked the nurse and hung up. Melville had heard his voice, and now sat up on the floor, brushing the giggling little boys off him, his eyes anxious. Dave rose, went to the broad fireplace, crouched there, and with the aid of a gas jet, sat kindling, crackling, and smoking under logs in the grate. Melville came to him. Dave got to his feet. "She's on her own," Melville said darkly. "Why won't they sneak in and kill her? In the hospital?" "Intensive care. Wards are busy places, filled with doctors and nurses," Dave said. "She'll be all right." "I wanted to stay and guard her," Melville said, "but they'd only kill me, too. They know I know." "If it's like that, why didn't you tell the sheriff?" "If Mama got shot for talking to you at Mr. Smithers, what do you think would happen? They see me talking to the sheriff. Deputy phoned me at school, told me Mama had this accident. Could they come and get me, take me to the hospital?" I say okay. But I didn't wait. I had the car. Mama used one of the Hutchinson's cars when she had errands, and I drove to the grade school and scooped up the babies, and we came here. "That's all right." Dave switched in lamps and either end of the long corduroy cushioned couch that faced the fireplace. "But I don't know why." "Because Mama trusts you. I yelled at her for talking to you. She say it's all right. You a fine man." He dug into his windbreaker pocket. "Gave me your card. Say if there was ever trouble, I was to get you." He showed the card. "I didn't know where else to go." Dave looked at the little boys, who were playing tag up and down the pine stairs to the loft. He said to Melville, "Why don't you take them to the cook shack, and then come back here and tell me what it is they know you know?" "All I want is to hide," Melville said. "That won't work forever," Dave said. "Maybe if you had talked to Cecil yesterday, your mother wouldn't be in the hospital now. Maybe the sooner you tell what you know, the sooner you can stop hiding, the safer you'll be and your little brothers and everybody else." Melville eyed him skeptically. "Insurance? What do you think you could do?" Dave shrugged, smiled. "I sometimes surprise myself." Melville didn't look persuaded, but he rounded up the little boys and herded them, jumping and skittering out into the rainy dusk. Dave made himself a drink and stood at the desk, listening to messages on his answering machine. Jean Malloy's voice, excited, exasperated. Salazar's voice, bored, exasperated. The voice of Amanda, his very young stepmother, widowed a few years back when Carl Brandstedter's heart stopped in his Bentley on a freeway. Amanda was cheery. She just got a new interior decorating job and wanted to celebrate by taking Dave and Cecil to dinner. No more voices came from the machine. Dave reset it, lit a cigarette, picked up the drink, started for the couch, and the telephone rang. He sighed, sat down at the desk, picked up the receiver. "You ought to stay home more," Salazar said. "Jean Malloy showed me those sketches of the brake system of a tractor-trailer rig that Kilgore drew. Kilgore doesn't look it, but he's weak in 10 minutes. I had him in tears, and now I've got him in jail." Dave raised eyebrows at the phone. "You mean he admitted blowing up Paul Myers for Angela's half of the insurance money?" "Not yet. But he will. He was read his rights. But he babbled. He admitted he was planning it." "Planning it is one thing," Dave said. "Doing it is another." He took a quick gulp of whiskey. "What about Silencio Ruiz? Did you pick him up?" Salazar's laugh was sharp, short, humorless. "That crazy old Gifford. You didn't tell me he's got a fortress out there, electrified fence on top of the wall, iron gates, dogs. That will tear you throat out." Dave frowned. "Your man out there knew that?" "Yes, well, I didn't know it, did I? And Silencio is important to me. I got a warrant and went myself, and I blew it. No way was he going to let me in there, and no way was I going to risk ramming those gates. Those were little machine guns Silencio's boys took to the church barbecue. He could spray us with bullets from that tower. Right, so you stake the place out. It's too big for that. We patrolled the walls. I did flyovers in the helicopter. It's got a spotlight on it to rake the ground, only with all those trees and bushes in there. What could we see? There's a loudspeaker. I kept telling Ruiz to come out, surrender. All it did was keep the old freak awake. He never sleeps much, Dave said. He complained anyway. This morning when he came down in his wheelchair to let us in, holding up a pink Japanese parasol to keep off the rain. It was paper. It came to pieces while we watched. Did he have his rifle? No rifle. You don't understand. He was a welcoming committee. I don't know what the hell he thought he was wearing. It looked like glass bead curtain. Come in, he says. By all means, search the house and grounds freely. Take all the time you want. No need to worry about the dogs. I wouldn't let them out in the rain. Salazar snorted. Sons of bitches were out in the rain all night, jumping at the walls, barking, snarling. Silencio got away, Dave said. I hope when he went over those walls, the edge wasn't wet sheen. They were hanging around, Salazar said. A crowd gathered when they saw all those county cars, all those spotlights, guns, uniforms. The noise of the chopper brought more. I saw edge jackets. Dave said, maybe he's still inside. No way, Salazar said. We practically tore up the floorboards. The place is a museum. Did you know that? No. He escaped in the dark. I'd feel worse if it was the first stupid mistake I ever made. I'd feel better if it was the last. It was a great tip-off, Dave. Sorry. He didn't blow up Paul Myers, Dave said. I don't think he led the raid on the barbecue. I believe the minister's wife. I think he tried to stop it. No way. Everybody was hysterical. I don't blame them, but witnesses are unreliable enough under normal circumstances. What am I saying? This is getting to be normal. Backyard terrorism, American pastime. Bigger than divorce. Dave twisted out his cigarette and drank again. No, I believe her because of something Gifford said. That prison changed Silencio. Gifford must have seen the GGs from his tower, heading for the barbecue with their new guns, and told Silencio, and Silencio ran to try and stop them, and got there too late. Salazar said, Dave, Silencio Ruiz is human garbage. Probably, literally, by now, David said. The trash collectors will find him in a dumpster soon. That was why I wanted you to jail him. You don't think he killed Myers? You don't think Kilgore killed Myers? Who do you think it was? I haven't got names, Dave said. Only suspicions. Give me a little more time and I'll lay it on your desk. You always say that, Salazar said. And then you try to do it all by yourself. You can get killed that way. Salazar had it backwards. Dave never acted on his own, except when Salazar or Ken Barker of LAPD couldn't or wouldn't help. He didn't remind Salazar of this. He only said, tell me about it. And Melville came through the door, out of the rain. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.